Hello and welcome to the first episode of It Never Ends. I am the host or co-host or whatever. I don't know. I always say that, but we're both co-hosts at this point. And so it's like, I'm Andrew. Over there is my best friend Alex.
We are the hosts of the show.
Exactly. I kind of cut together just like a small trailer for it, so check that out if you want to see. It was like I basically pitched this as like a show about like, you know, that like friend that you have that is really passionate about something but you don't really know what it is or care as much as they do. It's like that's basically what I wanted it to be. It's like listening to that friend. So
I'm down for that.
So yeah, I kind of just wanted to start out and it's like, hey, we're relatively nobodies, if not absolutely nobodies to the internet, but it's like I don't know,
we're cool dudes.
Yeah, it's like, but I was like just giving an idea of what was going to be said or like talked about on the show or whatever, and I thought would be probably a good place to start. And I think the main thing we both like is video games. That's probably the majority of what we'll talk about most of the time, but there'll probably be some curveballs thrown here or there. I mean, it's like baseball playoffs are going on right now, so most likely when it gets to like maybe closer to the World Series, I might want to talk about that. Which hell might even be next week.
Wait, actually?
No, they still got a hold of. They still got a. You got the There's a couple teams that have moved on to the championship series already. With like 2 more teams that could get there tonight.
Nice.
So, yeah. So it's not that far off. So it'll probably be a couple weeks, but it'd be really cool to talk about that because sports, especially baseball, has always been something I wanted to do. Before I even met you guys, my number one thing I wanted to do was sports analytics, specifically for baseball, because I always thought that baseball was by far the most interesting sport when it came to just raw like talent or just the amazing shit that they do. It's like, it's crazy to me. I don't know. It's like analyzing pitching at this point is just insane. Like I can't even describe. I can only put into words. And I think that one of the best things that ever happened to when it comes to analyzing pitching is the Twitter account Pitching Ninja, who started doing overlays. So he would put together 2 pitches from like an at-bat or a pitcher, and he would overlay the 2, and he would lower the opacity of the top one, so it's just like, so you could see how the 2 pitches interacted and how fast, how quickly, and how much they moved. It was such a simple thing, but the fact is that now it became basically like something you see all over Twitter or all over just like, I mean, even you look at like MLB Network and like ESPN and how they do it as well. It's like they do the same thing to show off their pitching. It's like that was probably by far the best thing that ever happened to especially analytics in baseball. So, I also just love pitching. Is always like, hitting is great, but it's like pitching has always been by far the most interesting thing about it. And I was like, it also helped that I was have a decent pitcher when I was like 14.
That's cool.
I could throw like a 60-mile-an-hour fastball. It's not that impressive at all.
I mean,
but yeah, it's like just that. And I was like, that's just like a small thing. I could go on for hours, especially once I know what the teams are. It's like you can go over strengths and weaknesses of each team and so on and so forth. But I think today, at least I wanted to, because I've recently finished Final Fantasy 16, and I have been super excited to play this game. I was like, I've loved it since it came out fucking how long ago at this point?
I think it was wasn't it just in like July that it came out?
Was it really that? When did Final Fantasy 16 come out again? I
think it was like I was close.
It's
late June 22nd.
Yeah, June. It's only October. It only took 4 months to finish the game. Don't worry about it.
I mean, I'm sure it's a big.
I was also just
16.
me splitting me some weekends just not doing jack shit and watching anime, but you know, it happens. But anyway, it's like, so spoilers, in case you haven't finished Final Fantasy 16 or really want to do 16.
Did you do any of the side quests?
I did all of the side quests.
So time to beat is about 58 to 60 hours. That's a long game. Yeah. That is a lot of time spent on a video game.
Oh, I know.
So 4 months is not bad.
And it was awesome. It was absolutely incredible of an experience, I think. And I think that I think Final Fantasy 16 was probably like the first game that we have, at least for the PS5, that was like I can truly consider to be next gen. It's like the only other closest one was like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Not saying that it wasn't, but it was like it was there, but it just didn't. It felt like it was missing something.
Yeah.
So it was like this one just felt like everything like just flowed. It's like everything felt so nice. Transitions were so good. Graphics were amazing. There was times that I saw it to myself. I'm like, that is, someone didn't just make that. They took a picture of that, and that is a real place that they went to, took a picture of, and put it in the game. Probably not, but it definitely looked like it at times.
Yeah.
And then you had the giant icon fights. I'm like, holy It's like, especially if you like, I mean, I know you're a big fan of Godzilla, so it's like, just basically take like, you know, all the big fights in Godzilla, just take those, and then that's the icon fights.
I've seen some of them in Final Fantasy 16. They look absolutely incredible.
Oh,
especially that one against, spoilers by the way.
Yeah, but, I was like, I said spoilers, so if you're still listening, you obviously either don't care or you played the game.
That one attack where he nearly destroyed the entire planet with one attack. Just because he didn't want to lose it.
That whole fight with Bahamut was so fucking good. Rad.
So cool.
I was like, you know, it started out with like, oh, he's destroying like the kingdom or whatever, and because he had like, it's like Dion had lost his mind basically because Ultima pushed him to the brink, and it was like, and then he just goes, well, fuck it, I'm just going to destroy everything because I've lost everything at this point. And then he's just going utterly berserk. And then it's just like, oh, you know, we'll start on the castle or whatever. It's being, you know, utterly destroyed. And then it's just like, then Joshua and Clive, even despite just being reunited or whatever, literally fuse together as Ifrit and Bahamut, and then they gain wings, and they fly up into space, and then fight in, like, the space. And I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, not what I was expecting, but that was fucking rad. That was by far the best fight in the game, for sure. Oh, man. It's like, and it's really funny, because it's like, oh, yeah, you had the Titan fight at Drake's, was it Breath, I believe it was? Where you fought one of the mother crystals, where he then like takes in like all the aether from the mother crystal and just like becomes massive. Like Titan's already a big guy, but holy fuck, he was fucking massive. And it's like even like compare him just to the size of like of Ifrit. It's like, dude, Ifrit is like he could squish him just in the palm of his hand. Like that's how big he was. And it's just like, and at some point we just get launched up into the air, and then we're just flying down with like one of his like tentacle things or whatever that he like makes or whatever. And it's just like, oh yeah, then we just smash him straight in the head. But then classic, it's like, oh, you think the fight's over? It's not over. Then he comes back, we're all falling in like a freaking what is it? It's almost it felt like very reminiscent to like when Gandalf was fighting the Balrog, like going down in like Lord of the Rings or whatever. It's like they're falling, but just constantly fighting, and it's fucking phenomenal. Ugh. God, all those fights were so great. It's like the beginning part was probably the slowest part, and was the one who was just like, all right, we're still gaining power, but it's like it's pretty good. But it was like, I think it was right after you get was the third one? Goddamn. I'm trying to remember the orders that you get the icons in, because it's like start with Phoenix, you get Ifrit, and then, well, you already had Ifrit, you just didn't know you did. You get Garuda, and then I believe it was Ramu. Yeah. Oh, that was sad. That was sad. It's like just after you beat the first, like right after you get the first Mother Crystal, like by far, like one of my favorite iterations of Sid is like Sid from Final Fantasy 16. It's just like he's phenomenal. It's like his voice actor was absolutely killed it in that role and everything about that, and it's just like, oh, so good. And then he just like dies like probably not even a quarter of the way into the game. He just dies, and I'm like, are you? Oh no! It was a sad scene, but it was good. It was very good. It's like the combat is so good, and it's just like it only gets like crazier, and it's like so many different ways you can play it, especially with the more and more icons you unlock. Like the last icon you get is Odin, and he has this weird gimmick basically where every one of them has like their own like sort of gimmick or whatever. It's like because like his is like you transform your sword into Odin's sword basically, and you attack, and as you attack you build up like this bar, and then as you build it up, like it's like you then hold down the power to use Zashusen or whatever is like the big move Odin always uses. I can never say the name, but it's like you do that, and it's like it does a lot of damage, but it takes a lot of time. It can sometimes take a lot of time to
power it up.
So I was just like, my brother really liked it. I was not really that much of a fan of it, but so it's just like you can play to the style however you want, but it's crazy what you can all do in that. And it's great because they allow you to experiment with how you do it, because even though you like you unlock abilities, you're not like punished for wanting to change your build. It's just like, oh, you don't want to use this anymore, that's fine, we'll refund it, no charge whatsoever. It's like you get all your ability points back, and then you can go experiment with something else. Like they want you to experiment.
I always love it when a game does that.
Yeah, so that's why I was just like, well, I have no reason not to try like stuff after I get it, because it's like you just get points back. It's like you just get it all back, so it's like might as well. Especially because like when you're using an icon, you have to use like that icon's specific ability unless you master the ability, which allows you to be able to place it on any different icon, because you can only have 3 active at a time, and you get like, what is it, 6? Well, 5 technically. It's just because you can use Ifrit and the Phoenix interchangeably, because they're both dominants of fire. So yeah, it was also like it's a dark and gritty story for sure. Like when they say it's like, oh, it's,
I mean, it's presented as much, yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's like, but here's the thing, it's like you can say it's like, oh, it's dark, but I'm like, it's dark. It's like there are times where, especially like, because the whole thing is that you're basically like, is that you're trying to create a better world for bearers, or just better world in general. So one of the number one people that is like subjected and like they're put into slavery is the bearers. They're the people who can naturally do magic. Like magic in that world, you need a crystal to be able to do magic. Unless you're a bearer, which you can do it naturally. Like you don't need a crystal or anything like that. But these people are treated like utter shit. Like just not like even below human. Like they're not even like considered human in like certain parts of Vesteria. To the point, and it's like, and at some point, like there was a couple side quests. Like there was a side quest you do early on where it's like, oh, this nobleman or whatever is like, hey, help with this dog. It's attacking my son or whatever. Go find the dog and kill it. And then you go kill the dog or whatever. And then the kid that you were supposed to save says, no, you weren't supposed to kill the dog. You were supposed to be killed by it. It was supposed to be fun and enjoyable, and I was supposed to be entertained by it. And I went, oh, yeah. They were buying bears and literally sending them after the dog under the pretense that it was like, oh, you're saving the kid from the dog. No, you are not. You were supposed to die, and it was supposed to be fun for the kid. Just to put that into perspective, that was probably like the most like fucked up moment I had until a while.
Well, fuck. Okay.
Yeah, until you get to the end, towards you get to the last continent of Ash.
Mm-hmm.
On Ash, it's like at this point, it's like everyone had been turned into this like mindless zombies called the Akashic, and it's just like, but like bearers can exist within like these like aether floods basically, and not have to worry about being turned into the Akashic. So that's how you can get around it. But any other people become like these zombie things. So there's a point where I think it was a side quest for one of the curse breakers. Yeah, and she was just like, "Hey, I got like this message from a friend saying that he needs help in this like Coliseum little area." And it's like, as you're doing the side quest, you realize it's like, oh, like they're doing experiments, they're making like this giant beast or whatever. They wanted to make it stronger, more powerful type thing. And so they're literally having bearers fight it, knowing that they're going to die. Like just straight up, like they just don't care that they're going to die. They're just going to fight that regardless. And they were just like, all right, we don't, because again, they're not looked at as human beings. And it's like, and then it gets even worse as they realize that, oh, fighting bears isn't actually making it stronger. At this point, we just need to foster its growth. But we don't have enough food to satiate it or whatever. So we're just going to start feeding the bearers to the monster. And that was the point where I went, okay, the dog thing was like, that was fucked up. But to the point where we're literally like sending bears off to literally just get eaten. I went, whoa. Whoa. I didn't think that could get any darker, but man, it
My
did.
God.
Yeah, so it's like when I say that it is a dark game, they don't pull the punches. Yeah. And then there was like, I think one of the cooler side quests I remember that was kind of under the radar, but I think helps the world as it is for like lore wise. There is basically it's like the person who keeps up on all like the goings of like, she's a scholar that you get later on in the hideaway. Her name's Vivian. And Vivian later sends you on a quest. She wants you to find like this book called From a Distance. And it's basically a book that's this like secret organization of like scholars basically created called the Executors. And it's like their whole thing is that they take books that have like world altering information in them and just take them, and no one really knows what they do with it, whether it's they just get rid of it, they burn it, whatever. And it's just like and so you get like this lead about how, oh, there might be a copy from a distance at like this one place. And so you go to the place and you find the book and you start reading it. You can like read a little excerpt from the book. And in the book, it literally just says like, oh, at one time bears weren't always subjugated to slavery. There was a point where it was a national religion. Like it was a religion basically that across all of Vesteria, and like bears weren't necessarily persecuted, but basically because people like worshipping of the mother crystals was basically just like the number one religion. Like you're not blessed with the crystal, the mother crystal's blessing. You are then cursed because you are stealing its power in a way. At least that's kind of how it's looked at. So eventually at some point the bears went from having a nationally recognized religion to banning of the religion, banning of any of the bears, like grouping and everything like that. And then to the point where they were like, no, we're just going to put them into slavery now. And it had been like that for how long? And I was just like,
oh, wow.
And it always, that was one thing about like the whole thing about the bears was the more interesting thing about it was that I'm like, wait, if these people are just inherently stronger than like normal people, it's like, why are they the ones subjugated to slavery? And I always thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
but that explained it in one go. And I think that's one thing I especially liked about Final Fantasy 16 is that it felt like that it wasn't just like Clive was the main character and the world centered around Clive, even though he was the main character,
he was the main
point
driver of the story.
Yes,
but it's more Clive as a character in this world rather than a world built around Clive.
Exactly, and I thought that was fantastic. It's like there is a whole world around here, and like as you talk to Vivian after like major plots in the story or whatever, like she'll literally go like, "All right, we want to know about Ash. We want to know about Drake's Fang or whatever," and it's like. And she'll give you a little rundown of everything that's going on. It's like, and then also like says, "Oh, here's like the history of the Dalmakians. Here's the history of Randalar, history of Ash and Waloed as we know them, and stuff like that." And it's like one of the, like, and I thought that, especially like there's like Ultima is the big bad of the whole thing. That much is like, I mean, we're not really told that until like halfway through the game probably, but it's like. At every point, there was a villain that was menacing, that was interesting, and that was to the point that felt like a threat at every given moment, basically. And I thought that was great. Between the first like kind of boss in Benedicta, I mean, she was like the first villain, and it's like you beat her fairly easily, but it's like. But basically, it's like, oh, then you later in the game, you find out that Benedicta was, Kupka's, like, lover, basically. And because he then found out that, oh, it wasn't actually Sid that killed Benedicta, that it was Clive, and he was just like, oh, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And it's just like, and at some point, he was still like, you fight him, and then after you beat the fight, or after you do the fight, you cut off his hands. Titan's hands. You cut off his hands, and he still has enough adrenaline and energy, even after you like steal his icon, basically, to then still slam the ground without his fist, without his hands, shaking the entirety of Rosaria. And I'm just going, holy shit. It's like you are bleeding profusely from your arms, and you still have that much, and then it just like someone comes in and just punches him, knocks him out cold, and then he just walks away. So I was just like, oh, well, that's not the last time we're going to see Titan, and it was not. So that was also like to the point where Clive didn't really have full control over Ifrit at that moment. So it was really good. But yeah, every character felt so fleshed out. Every character felt so good. It's like every character had a side quest as well, or multiple side quests to continue on with their like story. It's like each one of like your like main allies basically had their own type of story and their own side story that went along with it. It's like, I mean, your first one you meet is like Quentin. Quentin was basically like this like noble that had fallen from grace because he wanted to save bearers rather than persecute them or use them, and the noble didn't want that, and then so he gets revenge later on, and you help him get that revenge, but then you realize, oh, I didn't want that revenge type thing, and it just didn't help. And then it's like what was it, Eloise and her like sister or her brother is like, I think that was probably like one of the storylines that was most interesting to me, because it was like, it's like, oh, she was like this, again, like this noble or whatever that just like didn't want to follow in like the family business or whatever, because like her parents were wealthy business people, and then she just decided, no, I don't want to do that, and then her brother then helped her do that, and then he ends up sacrificing himself to save her in a way. And I was just like, oh, that was a cool storyline. It's like, it's not little things or whatever. I thought each one of them had like their own like little story that was all interesting, along with like your main party members as well. Yeah, Odin was by far my like Odin, or like what was it, King Barnabas. he was by far the coolest of the like bosses or whatever. It's just like,
really,
I think he was one of the coolest because at one point when you're trying to get to Waloed for the first time, you have to go by boat, and they end up making like this like mechanical boat or whatever that could sail against the tides or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it was like you start trying to go there, and then all of a sudden you see Odin in the distance, and you just like, oh shit, and then it just like a little fight happens, a little fight ensues, and at some point then he just goes, he just charges up this big slash, and then slashes the sea, and rather than the sea actually like falling in on itself at some point, it still splits the sea, and it's like you have two sea walls, and we're at the bottom of the ocean without the water there, fighting against King Barnabas. And it's just like, what the fuck is this Jesus shit right here? Because it's literally like he split the seas, and it just didn't fall in on itself because of his power or something. And I was just like, whoa. It's really cool. And then it's just like, it's like, oh, you don't have the ability to kill me yet. And then it's like classic, like, even though you're winning in the battle or whatever, you're supposed to lose, so you lose in the cutscene.
Well, that's not fun.
I mean, they only did that like once, twice in the whole thing. So I was like, I was okay with it. It wasn't like every time. Wasn't there like a game that was like always like that? I think that's like Xenoblade or something. My brother told me that like Xenoblade's always like that.
Like every Naruto game ever made, basically.
It's fair. So yeah, Barnabas was by far the most interesting. I mean, he was also Odin, so he was the last of the bosses before you go fight Ultima. Mm-hmm. So that was all really cool. Yeah. So by far, Final Fantasy 16 I wanted to win Game of the Year, but God forbid. I was like, there is a lot of competition this year.
It is a packed year this year.
Yeah, between like Tears of a Kingdom, Baldur's Gate, Spider-Man, probably.
I feel like my personal one is. I'm actually not sure if Starfield's going to get nominated, which is weird to think about.
I mean, everyone says it should, so I'm just going off of what people say. Yeah. So
I feel like my personal Game of the Year, and I haven't even played it yet or looked at any of it, aside from that first teaser, is going to be Alan Wake 2.
Yeah,
because
I'm excited to play that game, especially after you convinced me to actually play the first game. I am excited to play the second one, so I'm hoping I can maybe just finish off Spider-Man in a week, but we'll see about that. Especially how much I'm going to be able to actually play.
Spider-Man 2 is going to get fucking spoiled the shit out for me, because I'm probably not going to be able to play that game until like early November.
Yeah, I feel that.
So, yeah, no, I fully anticipate the entire story being ruined for me before I even start it.
Yeah, I was like, that's kind of what I was thinking with like Baldur's Gate 3, though surprisingly I haven't gotten any like spoilers for that. I wasn't even sure if I wanted to play it, but everyone just says it's awesome, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to check it out.
I just keep seeing a bunch of weird, random, kind of funny clips of it. Obviously, there's that weird ass like sex scene with a bear. A lot of it is horny shit. It's like I'll look up like Baldur's Gate 3 stuff, and it'll be like, big mommy wants to sit on my cock or some bullshit like that.
Are you that surprised?
I think one was like you, me, bed now, and it was just like an incredibly like sexually tense conversation. It's like, I mean, I'm not surprised that people are into that stuff. I'm surprised at how much of it is in the game. I knew it was there, and like there were gonna be tons of romance options, but holy fuck, there's a lot of that apparently.
This is D&D, and what you realize in D&D is everyone's fucking horny.
I mean, yeah, especially after last week, I should have gotten that.
Oh yeah, just referencing our friends D&D sessions where
Yeah.
our friend Billy was a character was thirsting over what was it what was her name after that?
Mushroom Lady or whatever the
Mushroom,
fuck.
yeah, Mushroom Lady. I know you've been playing much of anything lately.
I've been watching a lot of horror movies recently. I started playing Alan Wake again, and actually, I'm gonna start playing Splatoon 3 again.
Ooh.
So I am very not good at that game, but I want to
Hey,
get into it.
it's all about the fun, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why
I want to spend a little bit more time on that game before they shut it down forever at some point.
I was like, I don't know if that will be anytime soon, but
No. You hear they're shutting down support for the first Splatoon game?
that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, no, it's
Honestly, I'm kind of surprised that they were still up.
it's on the Wii U, so I understand. My whole thing is I hope that the single player is still playable after that like closing date happens. If not, I may not need to hack my Wii U somehow. You'd be surprised how many old games still have running servers up. Like basically every old Call of Duty game still has their servers up,
Which is
even
wild
if they
to
have.
me.
Yeah.
Like like when you said that, I was like, yeah, I was like, it would not surprise me in the least of like how many games are still like servers are still running, and I just go, wow, that's wild. Do you think that's partially why Valve decided like we're just gonna make CS:GO into Counter-Strike 2? That way we can just use the same
Basically.
servers.
No, I think they took inspiration from Overwatch 2, honestly. Because it's like, oh yeah, we'll make Counter-Strike 2, and then we'll just take the first game down.
Well, then they just replaced it. Like it's like and so it's just like it wasn't even like you needed to re-download it or anything like that. It was like you just like CS:GO just became Counter-Strike 2. The only reason I noticed that is because when I was looking at my Steam library, it's like I was just like, Counter-Strike 2? What the fuck? Oh, it just became CS. It just became that from CS:GO.
Which I did not know that they were going to do.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
So I was just like, oh, I guess you could just use the same servers and everything like that. It's not like you need to take them down and reopen up new servers or something like that. Or what you were saying, it's like, oh, like do like an Overwatch type situation.
Well, what's the point of doing this? It looks practically identical to the first one.
I don't know. Does Valve even make games anymore again?
I don't know. I don't think that they do, which is the sad part.
Yeah.
They come out every once in a while and are like, hey, here's Half-Life Alyx, and it's really good, and it comes with this new headset.
Oh yeah,
and
we're gonna make more Half-Life
for
stuff.
Years.
We're gonna make more Half-Life stuff. Clearly, that's why we made Half-Life Alyx. It wasn't just to sell our stupid, ridiculous VR headset, right? Right?
That's all they fucking did that for.
Pretty much.
The fact that if I go to like their dev page for Valve and I don't need to scroll to like one of their newest games is Portal 2 from 2011.
God, yeah.
Holy shit, bro! What the fuck?
Yeah, you look at Valve games now. It's like people always say it's like, oh, Half-Life 2 is still aged pretty well. Like, has it? It's like I don't doubt that the game might still be good, or probably is still good, but it's like it doesn't look good.
Forget how well it's aged. Like, why can't they just make another one?
Yeah, I mean, that really is just all of it, isn't it?
I mean, fucking Halo 2 has aged well, but that doesn't mean they can just stop making Halo games.
It's true.
Ay, ay, ay. So, have you seen the new PlayStation 5 Slim?
I have, and honestly, I couldn't tell you the difference without like actually looking at it. It's like I look down at my PS5 I have down here, and I just go, I mean, yeah, it's big. I don't really see how you make it that much smaller. I mean, maybe it's a little skinnier.
Apparently, it's like 30% smaller or something like that.
Okay.
And it's $50 more expensive now.
Are you serious?
And you need to pay $30 if you want to stand with it.
there's just Sony.
It's
What the
Sony's
fuck?
slowly becoming the new Apple. I think.
I think
was
you're
talking about
right.
this
I honestly think that's a good assessment.
I was talking to Billy about this yesterday, and I'm completely confident that they're very much in the spot of like, yeah, people will buy it. Fuck it. So why the hell shouldn't we do this? For the PS6, they won't even include like the HDMI or the power cable. You need to buy those separately now.
It won't come with a controller either. You'll have to pay for the controller separately.
I think Sony's getting a little too comfortable being in first place, and I do not hope that leads to their downfall. But I'm also not going to not hope for that.
Here's what I hope if that happens. Here's what I hope would happen is that I would hope that maybe not so much the U.S. but definitely the U.K. Whoever oversights like the consumer protection rights or whatever, just goes, hey, because I mean they did this with like Apple is like it's like, hey, you need to start putting the charging cords in with them because it's bullshit that you make it's bullshit you make phones and then don't give them chargers, it's like so it's just like I would hope that at least they would do like, hey, what do you mean like you have no like. What do you mean there's no like HDMI cord or power cord or controller in this? I'm like, what? He's like, are you stupid? No, you have to put those in if you want to sell those.
Well, they wanted a PS6, and we're technically giving them a PlayStation 6.
Yeah, it's only going to cost $50 more than the previous thing.
I mean, technically, it's if you want to stand it up vertically, it's $80 more expensive.
Are you serious?
And then you need to pay another $80 if you want a disk drive with it.
Yeah. So you think for the PS6 it's all going to be all digital? They're just going to get away with a disk drive.
It'll be for the PlayStation 6. Yeah, I think this next generation of consoles is going to at least try to go all digital.
Everyone talks about how, like, there might not be a next generation of consoles. Everything will just go to the cloud. And I was like, I still think we're probably, like, maybe 1 to 2 generations away from that.
I agree completely. I think there is at least going to be one more traditional console generation after this one.
Because it's, like, as well as also, it's just Sony and just, like, and even Microsoft, it's like they make a lot of money off of, like, console sales.
Yeah, and the demand for having like that dedicated piece of plastic, I'm not sure how quickly that's going to go away. Because a lot of people like really just enjoy having those as part of their entertainment center.
Well, I also think that to do cloud streaming or cloud gaming, personally, it's like everyone needs to have really solid internet, which clearly that's not necessarily the case. But as well as it's like everyone also needs a smart TV. Some people don't realize that not everyone has smart TVs.
Yeah.
Basically. Like, I don't have a smart TV. I don't watch TV enough to want to get one. Type thing. Like, I play my PlayStation off of my PC monitor, basically.
Oh.
And so it's just like, I mean, I could, but I don't want to, So it's just like, and then my parents don't or whatever. I mean, granted, they don't. Although they probably should, but some of their TVs are very old at this point. But anyway, so it's just like I think that there are less. I think for people who are really into gaming, obviously they're going to have like smart TVs, and it's becoming a more common thing. But it's like you'd be surprised at how many people just don't have smart TVs yet.
Yeah, which is understandable.
Yeah. It's like for anyone that's into gaming, it's like, yeah, you probably do already, but I'm going to say a majority of people don't.
Yeah, that doesn't apply to everybody. Absolutely not.
I mean, it's why they still sell like Fire Sticks and like doesn't Netflix do like their own like USB thing that you can plug in?
I don't know. I know Walmart does. They have Roku.
That's right. But... Yeah. It was like my boss does Roku because he that's the only place to watch the English Premier League. So, yeah.
I bought one because I was at Walmart and needed a streaming stick. And as a bonus, I got to watch the Weird Al movie because of it.
Hey. That was one with Daniel Radcliffe, right?
Yeah.
How was that?
Fun. I thought it was okay.
Nice. Also, real fast before we get away from other things, is like, did you see that the Unity president stepped down?
Yeah. I'm not surprised. I feel like when all this started, we kind of expected him to go away.
Yeah.
And now it's just kind of happening.
Yeah. It's like, at this point, it's like, Unity's just trying to save face, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're just trying to say, all right, we need to get, like, people back on our bandwagon. It's like, and basically they just said, no, you gotta go. Like, just straight up, you gotta go. We gotta show that we're serious about this.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I thought that was kind of interesting. Anyway, you saying?
I was just going to ask if you watched any spooky movies yet this October.
I have not.
We're almost halfway through the month, man, and it's spooky month.
I get that, but it's like it's probably going to be like that last weekend before October or whatever that I'm gonna do that. Otherwise, I'll be playing a lot of like spooky games or something like that.
Okay, what spooky games are you playing?
One game that I remember playing the demo of a while back that I saw Epic was giving away for free not that long ago was In Sound Mind. It was a very good like psychological horror game that I thought was very interesting when I played the demo, and I wanted to play it. I remember because it was coming out in October of last year, and I just never got around to playing it, and I felt really bad because I was just like, this looked really cool, and I wanted to get it, and then I was just like, and then I never bought it, and then I was just like, well, I guess I'll just save it for next Halloween. And then I saw Epic had it for one of their free games of the month, like not that long ago, but it was definitely a little while ago. And so I was like, I could probably try and play this at least a little bit. Or there's Amnesia the Bunker. I still need to play that. Because I heard that was really good.
Wait a minute, is that still on Game Pass now that I think about it?
Was Amnesia the Bunker on Game Pass?
I know it was for a while. I'm not sure if it's still on there, though. If it is, I gotta play it.
Ooh.
Because doesn't that game only take like an hour or so to beat?
Yeah, I don't think it's a particularly long game because the idea is that you can beat it in so many different ways.
Yes.
Nice.
I am so happy. Download this tonight.
Awesome. Yeah, I was like the thing especially about Amnesia the Bunker is that people always said it was frictional games reminding themselves what makes Amnesia good.
That's good.
And I was just like, that's great. Because, I mean, did you ever play Soma?
I did. I absolutely fucking love Soma.
Soma was fucking awesome. Like, that was like the last like really good game. I think that was Frictional Games, wasn't it?
I don't think so. I think
was
I think it was a team made up of their like former employees or somebody who was like inspired by like Amnesia and
developers Frictional Games and Bitworks.
Yeah, no.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm wrong. I'm sorry.
I thought it was Frictional Games, but I couldn't remember. I was like, that was really good. I really enjoyed that one. It was very fucking scary and very interesting. That was like the last like, I mean, what has Frictional Games put out like? I mean, obviously you had Amnesia like Rebirth or whatever. That was not very good.
They made a Machine for Pigs.
Machine for Pigs. Unfortunately, that was the follow up to Dark Descent. God, they didn't make anything for a couple years. Then after that,
yeah,
because it was like they made Amnesia like Machine for Pigs back in 2013, and then Soma came out in 2015, and then Rebirth came out in 2020, and then Bunker in 2023. Huh.
Wow.
Yeah, it's funny to think that something like Frictional Games, like, I mean, I think I've talked about this before, but like on like our old podcast, I guess. But it was like Amnesia: The Dark Descent was like my introduction to horror games, and I thought was a very I thought it was a very solid point to horror games, and I think was a genre defining game as well.
It was, yeah. My first horror game was unfortunately Slender the 8 Pages. If you remember that game at
The
all.
old classic. What, you didn't like watching everyone make like their own videos off of that, of them getting scared by Slender Man?
I'll be honest, I've never watched any of those videos.
Really?
Back when I was in I think I was still middle school at this point, but me and my bunch of my people in my friend group were just big into internet horror stories and creepypastas.
Oh,
and that's where and obviously my buddy Nate was a fan of Markiplier in his early days of his channel, but one day he just kind of told us about Amnesia: The Dark Descent when we were all hanging out. I think it was for a sleepover, and just in my buddy's dark room, we were just sitting down and playing this Slender game on one of our laptops. And back then, that was the scariest shit in that particular setting.
It was. It's here's the thing. Here's the thing.
I didn't see.
I look at it going just people. I was you can say it's oh man, that's kind of just whatever. But it's at the time, it's we all look back and it's Slender the 8 Pages and Five Nights at Freddy's when they first came out were scary. It's as much as oh, we're just desensitized to a lot of it now. At the time it was big. That's why you still continue to see those things.
I think those are the three big internet horror properties that really took over the internet for a while. It's Amnesia, Slender, and Five Nights at Freddy's that really got a lot of people going, I think.
Well, hell, you mentioned Markiplier, but Markiplier, PewDiePie, and basically a couple other guys like that really got their start on YouTube because of Amnesia.
Yeah.
It's I remember back in when was their channels really taking off? Was that 2010-ish? 10, 11? I want to say that was right.
I think it may have been a little before that, but
maybe.
I think.
But I'm talking about when they started taking off, when they were on their rise in popularity. I'm not saying that they could have been making videos before that, but I was but I'm talking rise in popularity, or at least maybe maybe that's probably about when I discovered them, honestly.
So Markiplier's first Slenderman video was 11 years ago, which would have been
11 years ago. That would have been 2012.
Yeah, that would have been. I'd say that's when his channel started taking off with that one. What about his Five Nights at Freddy's video?
Oh, I mean, when did the original FNAF come out? It was probably shortly after that, right? Because it was
yeah, 9 years ago. So I'd say either 9 to 11 years ago is when Mark's channel really took off, because his channel was huge in Five Nights at Freddy's when that first came out.
Oh yeah,
he got a big boost of subscribers off that.
Oh yeah, I mean that was also
about how long ago that was.
I mean that was also Mad Pat's that's when he really started taking off too. Is all the FNAF theories. I mean that's why he still does 1,000 of them.
How many fucking videos does he have on that stupid game?
Game theories in order. It says 93 videos. 93.
Almost 100 videos. It's going to surpass 100 once the movie comes out. You already know
absolutely. It will. You don't think that the people are going to just utterly dissect everything about the movie? Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's done theories on the books.
There are books.
Yeah, there are books. The only reason I know that is because I watched those. I mean, there was a time that I was really into FNAF, those early the first couple games I think were probably when FNAF was in its prime, basically. It's I think that was the best version of it because there was an air of mystery around everything.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of just oversaturated now.
Well, it's just that the stories got convoluted. Like, it's just like, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And you just go, why didn't you just end it back there and then do something else that makes a little bit more sense that could still exist within the FNAF world, but is different? I don't know. That's oftentimes how I almost say like the FNAF is basically like that hit show on NBC or some shit like that. It's like what was it, like Law and Order at this point. It's like at some point it's got to fucking end, man. You just keep doing it. You keep doing the same thing over and over again, and you're just gonna build up this like giant like universe or some shit, and you just go, where does it ever end? Where does it even begin? Does this even make any sense anymore? Does anyone even care anymore?
I mean, I'm not surprised that they're milking it for all that it's worth.
I mean, yeah,
But
I mean that's
shit.
all it is.
Yeah.
At this point.
I mean, get that bag, but fuck, man, it's getting to be too much.
It's getting to the point where it's like, I just don't see what like they're hoping to get from it. I don't know. It's just like, other than just like money, which I guess is the reason, but like
Money, yeah.
I don't know. I guess it's just like I'm always about the story, and when the story is lost, that's when I'm just like, all right.
I mean, the story's not lost. It's just incredibly convoluted.
Yeah, it's just like, what the hell? It's. I think you're absolutely right. It's like it's not like it's lost. It's not
A lot.
It's just there's just so much. That's why I always like when shows end and stuff like that. It's like especially if they end well. Like there's times where it's like, oh yeah, it doesn't end well or whatever. Like I mean, looking at Game of Thrones or something like that for not ending well.
For shows that just really like end on a good note as opposed to a wet fart, there are two shows I always look at and compare and contrast. And those are always Fairly Odd Parents and Ed, and Eddie. If you don't mind me going on this little tangent, but I rant about this all the time. Ed, and Eddie went out on a perfect note. It never like seriously dipped in quality, the show itself. And when it was time for it to be over, they released the movie, which was spectacular, and the series just ended.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I was obviously really upset because it's like, oh well, this is my favorite cartoon, and now it's gone. I can look back on it now and be like, you know what? At least it never got bad, so it never soured the taste of. I never got like turned off by it. Whereas Fairly Odd Parents, that show went on for an absurd amount of time. And every single season, it seemed like it kept getting worse and worse, and they kept running out of more and more ideas. And they're still coming up with iterations of it today, basically. And none of them are being received well. And if you look back on those days where both shows were, I think, relatively well received, and compare the legacy of both of them, it's like I can't even look at like old Fairly Odd Parents nowadays without getting almost turned off by it.
Yeah, I was like, I also felt that way about like, I mean, a little bit like, like SpongeBob in a way. It's like they keep making SpongeBob or whatever, and I just go, I remember watching like one episode, like one of the newer episodes, and I just went, what the fuck, dude? It's like it's not even funny anymore. It's just like
should have ended it after the movie.
Yeah, they really should have.
It was the perfect way to send the show off. It was great up until that point. Should have just ended it there. I know a lot of people are going to be upset that we're saying that, but
it's one of those things where it's like, especially young kids, like when it comes to especially like young kids media, is like it doesn't really care about the quality. It's like, oh, are the kids enjoying it really? Like, and then you probably just go, yeah, because they don't know what's bad. Like, they don't know what's good and bad. Like, honestly, it's like I remember as a kid, just like loving everything because I didn't know what was bad. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
and now it's like as I've gotten older, I'm like, oh yeah, this wasn't good. And it's like I'm a little more discerning, I guess, of like
Garbage.
yeah. So I'm just like, I don't know. I think that's the difference between like, especially like older or like younger, like media made for like younger kids, like whatever, like cartoons, stuff like that. You can afford to just like dip in quality, continue making it until it basically just kids stop watching it or whatever, it stops making money.
Which is almost kind of sad because, like, you look at a lot of like the young adult shows we have nowadays. It's like, I'll be honest. I'll be completely fair here. I don't watch any of them. I know a lot of people that do, though. It's like you have stuff like the Infinity Train, you have Owl House, you have like Gravity Falls and shows like that, and they're all like actually really good, and a lot of people can enjoy them. And then you just go a little bit lower to like younger kids media, and it just seems like it's all just complete garbage. And we can talk about like, oh, we're just old men looking back on the good old days, but it's like, I do feel like we had better like kids shows back then.
I mean,
like,
here's the thing:
Foster's Home, we had Ed and Eddie, we had Dexter's Laboratory.
well, it was also like as well. I think it's how to put this. It's like I do think that there are like cartoons that are really good. I mean, you listed a couple of them that are like on the newer side. Like I never watched some of them. Like I never watched Adventure Time. I hear Adventure Time is fucking great. And like and stuff like, and I was like, and then like and other things, but I'm just like, it's like, yeah, I think we can kind of look at it through nostalgia glasses as well, but at the same time, it's like we look at we when you put the objective glasses on, you go, yeah, this is great, and it was like, it was funny, it was witty, it was cool, and it was awesome. Like that's really what it is. It's like it's why I think like oftentimes, what you watch as like a younger kid will ultimately determine what you watch as you get older. It's like, I don't know. It's like, it's hard to like put parallels between the two of them, because like, oh, how did you get from like watching SpongeBob to like watching Game of Thrones or something like that? It's like, it's very jarring, different things. But it's that similar thing or whatever. It's like, and I also think with like adult shows or whatever, it's like, it is the quality of the thing and how enjoyable it is that determines like whether or not it's actually good or not. It's like, yeah, I've never watched Breaking Bad, but everyone tells me Breaking Bad is fucking awesome, and it like ends well and is really good, and just everything about it is just great. And there was like, what was it, 5 seasons that they had for Breaking Bad, and it like ended on a good note and everything like that. Whereas you oftentimes like you see shows just milk it until it's like to the point where it's just like, yeah, we just don't have anything to do with it anymore. Let's just end it. That type of deal. I was recently listening to some like old Rooster Teeth podcast, and in that early those early podcasts, they talk about like Lost, and like how disappointing the ending of Lost was, considering it basically was like the thing back then. It was the show that every adult basically watched and loved until the ending.
I remember a lot of people being obsessed with that show when I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I had a roommate that watched basically all of Lost. Like he tried to keep up with it to the point because he was really into it, and I was just like, I mean, there were times where I was bored and I'd watch a little pieces of it, and I just go, I don't get why people are so obsessed with this. I think it was that first real moment of just like interesting storytelling within a show. And I think that was what interested a lot of people at that time. It's like, it was the first show that really did an overarching story over multiple seasons that was interesting to the point where it got people talking, and then everyone in like every show going forward. I mean, like we listed like Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, basically did the same thing. I mean, I know they're based, at least Game of Thrones is based off the books, or at least mostly. But it's like, I really think that's where like where you see a lot of these shows like derived from. I don't know. I like I said, I never watched Lost. I never really saw the fanaticism in it, but I was like, I mean, it's kind of interesting. It also didn't help that I knew the ending of Lost, and it was basically just all a dream, and I went, well, that's fucking stupid. I didn't even know the whole story, and I was told that it was all a dream in the end, and then I went, well, that's fucking stupid.
That is fucking stupid. That's how the show ends?
Yeah, it's like because like, do you know like the premise of Lost at least?
They all get lost on a
they're on a plane, and then
island?
the plane crashes in the middle of the ocean. They land on this island, and like they were just like, "Oh, how are we all alive?" Well, it turns out they're all just dying in that like as they're falling in the plane, like in the plane crash or whatever. But there's like all these like other, almost like paranormal like things going on. There's like multiple realities and stuff like that. There's like all going on at some point, and then they just chalk it up to it was all a dream in the end. Because you're all dying. This is like the hallucination that you made up in your minds, and that explains everything. And I went, what?
That explains nothing. That just sounds frustrating.
No, that is, you didn't know how to end the show, so you just decided we're gonna do this. That's all it was, and that's what people were upset about.
Yeah. I understand that completely.
Yeah. That is legitimately all I know about Lost. I don't know a single one of like the character storylines or anything else about that. I just know that there's some like paranormal stuff that kind of goes on, or like supernatural stuff that kind of happens, that type of thing, or just like straight up just mystery like stuff that happens, but then it's just like what they are or what exactly it is, I have no fucking clue. It's really funny to be talking about a show that came out how long ago at this point? Lost TV show. When did that come out?
Had to have been like early
2004.
2004. That sounds right. Exactly.
Whew. Yep. Came out September 22nd, 2004. We picked a good topic for, the first episode of this.
Yeah, we're talking about Lost. How practical.
Oh man, that's great. That's great. I think that is the perfect way to someone to go with the first one. That is the peak of our just rambling about stuff.
Hey guys, we talk about cartoons and Lost. Hey, we also talked about Final Fantasy 16. Kinda.
I love how the ups and downs of this has gone. It's like I started out with like oh, here's what we're going to talk about on the show or type thing or whatever. All right, here's Final Fantasy 16. It's fucked up in the worst ways. And then it's like now it's like, oh, Ed, Edd n Eddy was great because it did all these things and everything like that. It's like we started talking about cartoons. Then we went into like then we ended with Lost. What the fuck? Oh, I could think of no better way to have the first one go. Honestly, this is perfect. I almost feel like I should name this Lost in 2023.
The Lost Experience in 2023.
You wouldn't see. The thing is like that also could be misleading because it's not. Oh, are they just like what does Lost in 2023 mean? It's like no. It's like how many people do you think that would see that the title and go, oh yeah, they're talking about the Lost TV show back in 2004.
Like literally zero. No one
would think that. Anyway, though, thank y'all so much for watching. Whatever the fuck that was. But it was a thing, and it was fun.
Yeah.
It was the thing, and it was fun. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so we can talk more Lost. And we won't actually be talking about Lost. Trust me, neither of us have seen the show. Don't worry about it.
We're probably never going to talk.
If we talk about Lost next week, I think I might lose my damn mind. But anyway, be sure to follow my co-host over there. He streams sometimes, right?
Yeah, usually on Tuesdays now, whenever I get the time to play games with my buddy Billy.
Yeah. So be sure to subscribe to twitch.tv/Tom Cruise Can't Lose. And, subscribe to the podcast. And, I think we'll see y'all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.